don't think people get it. You know, like, we don't want to just be left alone with our families too, you know? It just makes you wonder, like, our mere existence. Just. I didn't think I'd be alive to see nothing like this. Honestly. I got to work this morning at 6 a.m. By 6:20, I received a phone call that my father passed. I lost both of my parents in a 2-month time frame. Both of my parents is gone. Dad, thank you so much for the apology. The remorse. Our last conversation was beautiful. Thank you for that. I'm numb. Both parents gone in 2 months. I miss you, Mommy. Thank you, Dad. The one thing I can count on is for Black women to be so horrible to each other. So first, let me start by saying I never said that he didn't. I was giving you a different perspective on why some people don't. Not only did he bathe them and change their diapers, he did everything a dad is supposed to do from the very beginning, from the very first day. However, though, some people that have traumatic experiences, they don't trust anybody. I don't give a damn if it's your mama, your daddy, your husband, your brother, your uncle, sister, cousin. If it's traumatic enough, you won't trust a soul. And I didn't trust a soul. Neither one of my kids went to daycare. None of that. You know what I'm saying? But I can always count on a Black woman to say some evil, mean, name-calling shit just because someone had a different experience from them. I never said that he didn't. I was giving you perspective on why some people don't. My 23-year-old was up at 1 o'clock in the morning crying and a frantic on the phone with her friends. Like, no, you don't understand. She comes.
Look, want to grab your...
Like, I truly don't think you guys understand when she means never been in the studio with him. Like, if I was really thirsty for fame, I could have sued for breach of contract because they did nothing, and I mean not a thing that contract said that he was supposed to do. Told a bunch of lies. I'm gonna take you to TikTok. I'm gonna take you to New York. I'm gonna do that. None of it. And what's even more crazy is that people in the industry, they don't care about lying to your face. They don't care. He didn't care that he was messing with a minor's mind and emotions and dreams, and he didn't care about none of that. For whatever reason, for season 5, he hated season 5. I don't know if they forced him to do it. I don't know if that was like, okay, this is the end of the contract. I don't know what it was, but I was floored when he went in her DMs, was like, hey, yeah, I see you struggling. What? And it says she need artist development. Baby, she has had artist development since the age of 8 from Brooke Payne. The Brooke Payne. Her daddy and me, who were also trained by the Brooke Payne. So saying that Tyler Rain needed artist development at that time, when she was 16, she was doing right now what Victoria Monet and all of them are doing, and Doshi is doing. She was doing it at 16 with no artist development. in his eyes. But baby, I hated the whole experience. Like, I tried to make sure every time we had a live performance that I had somebody there from the camp to film the live performance so that y'all can see it without all the weird ass edits, because whoever did the editing for the show, they clearly weren't into music, because they would edit and make it sound dumb, make the bars sound like they don't go together. Every time we had a performance that was open to the public, I had somebody there from my team filming the performance, because I don't trust your editing. Like, I truly don't think you guys understand when she means never been in the studio with him. My 23-year-old was up at 1 o'clock in the morning crying and a frantic on the phone with her friends. Like, no, you don't understand. She comes downstairs and she's talking to me and her dad. And she's like, Dad, do you know, like, I have to learn how to protect myself even more. Like, I've got to learn how to be able to fight off men even more. He said, Daddy, like, what happens if the police pull me over with full immunity? Like, to know that that's what's running through her head. Like, she's crying out of, like, how do I not let this affect my life? How do I move on? How do I not live in fear? How do I, you know? But just to know, like, those are her thoughts at 23. It's like, cops can pull me over and have a way with me, or men can have a way if I don't give them a number on my face. And she was like, what do I do? She's like, I'm going to have to learn how to figure out how to get out of headlocks. What do you say when your baby says something like that to you, you know? Like, what do you say? Other than to make sure that they're prepared. Right? My twin at 1 o'clock in the morning crying and a frantic on the phone with her friends. Like, no, you don't understand. She comes downstairs and she's talking to me and her dad. And she's like, Dad, do you know men can have a 1 o'clock in the morning?
So welcome to Chit Chalk Chat. I am POTUS, Chaplain Pang. Welcome back to Chit Chalk Chat. Today is November 6th. I am your host. Welcome back to Chit Chalk Chat. Today is November 6th, and I am your host, POTUS, aka Chaplain Charlie. On this episode, coming up,
crying and a frantic on the phone with her friends. Like, no, you don't understand. She comes downstairs and she's talking to me and her dad. And she's like, Dad, do you know, like, I have to learn how to protect myself even more. Like, I've got to learn how to be able to fight off men even more. He said, Daddy, like, what happens if the police pull me over with full immunity? See, I think the part that hurts the most is that all women will be affected by this. All of us, no matter what race we are doomed. Like, what happened to y'all? What happened? I am sitting here talking to my daughter about the events from last night. And this video is for white Americans that voted for Kamala. I hope I say this right. I don't know any other way to say it, but what made you guys see us as human? Or what made you not see us as animals? Like, what was it that happened in your life that didn't make you like them, that didn't make you hate us or not want anything good for us? Like, what happened? What happened? What happened to, I think the part that hurts the most is that all women will be affected by this. All of us.
Now, when you say all woman, are you including those who are feeling the same emotion of hurt and fear and numbness that our sister neighbor here is sharing with us? This is a very human moment for all of us. And I'm just one human being who, just based on all the adjectives or pronouns and nouns that were just kind of used just in our words. And where do our words come from? Our thoughts. Our thoughts become words, and our words become actions, and these actions become our behavior. And this behavior will eventually become our character, and then our character is what defines our destiny. Okay? Now, it also kind of recycles backwards. What happens when you reach your destiny? Are you just done? Like, for some, it feels that way. Like, I'm at the pinnacle of like everything that I wanted to do in life, and I'm only 23 or 43 or however old, and if there's anything that I am truly grateful to God for giving us just this reset, right? I know this term, like the grand reset's been like used throughout this whole campaign process, but let me just kind of reintroduce and redefine what I mean by this opportunity of just this reset, because essentially President Trump, as the 45th president, succeeding President Obama, who I personally will sit here and tell you straight from my heart that when I saw him, I was inspired, like for the first time to like go out and vote. I had never voted at this time, but then, I ended up entering the era of my backslide. These are like my early 20s, and I ended up getting convicted with, felony charges, drug possession charges. That was just really stupid, where I had to deal with like a brand new horrifying experience for the very first time without like my parents around me, in a whole new state, in the state of Sin City. I'm in Vegas. It's my freshman year of spring break in college, and me and my dorm mates thought it would be a good idea to like take a road trip to just put ourselves in a much worse position than how it ended up turning out. And I just want to just kind of stop here and just note that this is just kind of who I am, like where my pace can kind of go like speedy, and then it's like a roller coaster where it's like, ah, and then like up. So just like, please just understand that and treat this kind of maybe as like a comedy show, you know, where you just are listening to a raw hour special from a silent comedian, where I say that because when I felt I was getting out of like this backslide phase, when I was like finding myself, it was through comedy, my pursuit of comedy. And again, it was this pursuit that was like my choice. It was my reset. I didn't want to go to college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then in college, I like found out like, wow, watching Dave Chappelle like gave me the same, like, if I had to like explain it in a scientific language, I would say like, this is like the energy that just like, I felt from just like his mass, and that meaning just like his presence, you know, like traveling at like the speed of light. And by that, I just mean like the internet, like, and DVD, you know, like this was my freshman year of college before 9/11, you know? So like, this is when like Napster was like the craze, and we were deciding like MySpace or Facebook, you know, like I'm just trying to quickly illustrate the picture for, you know, Gen Z and Generation Alpha, who, you know, I pray will be watching this, you know, long after, you know, I've left this world physically. You know, this is like my I don't want to say my space, but this is my story, right? That I'm sharing on social media with people I feel a connection with, you know. And I know like the question,
No matter what race we are doomed. Like, what happened to y'all? What happened?
So this is like the tough wound, right? That, you know, when President Trump was like just using this phrase, the enemy within, you know, like I hear that, and I personally use that term as like the enemy within is in ourselves, right? Our greatest enemy is ourself, right? And if you don't have yourself standing in your way, then you're free to do pretty much anything. And this is where like the ego, id, and superego come into play, I've found, you know, like it's these three aspects that I would correlate to that diagram of how, you know, the Trinity in Christianity is kind of diagrammed, where it's like the triangle, and you got the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and like God in the middle, and they're all connected, but the Father is not the Son is not the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm talking about? You know, note to self, this is what I'm talking about. But it's like, I hear this language and I'm just grateful that it was my parents and like my father's direct struggle that he faced because of his skin color, my skin color, coming into this country as a foreign immigrant, the legal way, you know, to make something of himself, inspired by the American dream. Like, the American dream was a very powerful thing to the world. Like, if I could make it there, then I can make it anywhere, but then I got to make it to there, right? So it's like, it was a lesson for my father to like learn how to plan priorities, you know, and like, it's just, you ask like specifically not any part of how people would probably identify me, but this is where I just tell people who know me, like all my life, I've always found out that like it's just human nature for us to see another human being and just automatically make like at least 3 or more judgments or assumptions or, you know, whatever you want to call it. We have 3 like things that we just automatically see first, you know, like if it was a Rorschach test or like, you know, the ink blot test, like what do you see? It's like, oh, I see somebody who's not my same race, who's not my same sex or gender, you know, political party perhaps, you know, like adults, you know, like I'm not a parent, you know, and you got a parent. Like it's just automatically off the bat, I know this about you, my neighbor sister, and I'll just call you, you know, P.O.T.U.S for just anonymity and stuff like that. But I just hope that you know that I'm kind of speaking to you right now because your message truly did resonate with me, even though I wasn't, you know, mentioned in the context of your target audience.
The thing is, what happens when certain laws are reversed or passed or done away with and the signs go back up, whites only restaurant?
Okay, so now this is where we're starting to just like open the door and, you know, take a sneak peek. At least this is how I felt, you know, like this was my sneak peek into the door of like, you know, if we were like children, it's just like, there's monsters in my closet. It's like, let's see, you know, I'm taking in here, you know, and I don't want just my use of like monsters in the closet to like take any kind of start any light switches flicking on, like, you know, when I talked about what we do with other people, just kind of be in the moment with me, guys. Okay. So the fear is like, what happens when it's just like whites only, you know, like I thought she was going to say something on the path of like abortions, but clearly this is a further wound, a deeper wound that comes from the systemic racism that I guess critical, you know, race theory is the catalyst for, I guess, triggering this emotion in so many of our fellow American neighbors, you know, in this country.
Hispanic only restaurant, like Hispanic only restaurant, like what?
This is where I heard that and I was like, that's a whole different kind of fear, because it's just like to say whites only, but then to say Hispanic only, you know, like that was a huge like jump, you know, and this is where I was just like, how did you make that quantum leap from like, it used to be whites only, now it's just going to be Hispanic only. So this is where now I sense like your fear is like not being the majority minority, I guess, you know, like the fear that Hispanics are going to take over the country in numbers, you know, which is, I guess, the collective fear that the white and black, and when I say white and black, I'm talking about skin color, but I have to point this out because I'm somebody who has just like trained myself to be in the state of mind where when I'm using these terms, white and black humans, black lives, white lives, black lives, and this is specific if you want an explanation on why I have to do this, is because I've never felt included in the rhetoric like this. So when I hear about like inclusive language being like a real like mission for DEI and stuff like that. I understand that because of my experience. It's like, I'm a yellow man. Like, I was called Twinkie, by my fellow Asian peers, but then, like my fellow American peers who happened to just all be like white, and some were, African American or whatever. Like, it's just, I just looked at human beings as human beings from the start. And it was when I just began like understanding why all these strangers, like, who were like adults that I've never met, like, just knew my name was Charlie, and like, I was just like, do you know my father? And they're just like, oh no, like, you don't know me, Charlie, but I know you. And I'm just like, what? And I like, it was just like these life experiences where I was just like, wow, like it was those moments, those memories that were very painful when I started mining them out of my mind. There's like mindset, but then you have to like mine for like the gold in that state of mind. So when I say mindset, it's a homonym also for like mind, like, you got to mine it out, like you've got the raw materials out of your mind. So now how do we process the words that we're going to use to
What happens when it gets back to that? It's like, that's what it feels like. It's going to get back to you quick. It's not going.
Well, just let me assure you that I have 100% certainty our country will never go back to the America where it will say whites only or Hispanic only. I don't know. Maybe this is where you introduce like a whole new idea that I'm just like, I never thought of that, but I can't even imagine what would have led us to that point, right? I mean, we know that there's like spots that are known to be like, Chinatown, or, like the urban part, like these words that we use as essentially pronouns to replace like the noun that we're, like, it's just, you guys have to understand. And when I say you guys, sorry, it just means, just when I say guys, I mean like everybody. And I think that, PWL, sister neighbor, like, you have to be able to like kind of understand like what I'm hinting at here, because you started off just saying like, this goes out to all the white women who voted for Kamala Harris. Like, how do you guys, it's just like, this is just kind of
Going to take a whole 4 years with the laws that they want to reverse and the things that they want to dismantle.
So this is where you're using now they, right? And so this is where my pronoun is he, him, and they, and I say they because when people say like they're the ones, it's like, okay, well, I don't know where I fit into this. So it's just like, am I part of the we? Am I part of the they? I've always had to identify as both. So this is where I kind of felt like blessed throughout this whole 7 years of tribulation for me personally, that it was truly like God and, scripture that guided me and helped me through this moment. And I hope that this is where I can use this reset to do so, because, on the timeline when it was just like, when Trump was out of office, like, I don't know, I was in space. And I'm just very optimistic with President Trump. I look at it as just like, hey, he promised us he's going to end these wars, day one. Granted, let's not start picking at him like, you said day one, but let's just say within year one, all this is going to stop. Like, I have this where it's just like, Vice President Harris, she couldn't vocally make that commitment. She just tiptoed around because she was so focused on her target audience, the women, and I guess the men who support them, who are just so outraged by this one issue of abortion and women's rights getting taken away, when Donald Trump just says, I just left it back in the hands of the states, which I was just like, yeah, when he says it like that, that's great. You know, it's each state's opportunity. But then when Christians then pushed that to be like, abolish abortion, this is where it's just like, to put it into a law and make that like how it will be written that this was abolished in American history, like slavery was abolished because we had to go through a civil war and then all this stuff, and, you know, like just all this stuff to be, and it's not even abolished still, you know, like there are people who don't feel or like believe we've gotten past this, even though we're on like a whole new issue of like trans rights, gay and lesbian rights, because like, you know, I hear the same undertones when I hear like,
I just don't understand how they think that they're different. Like we're not. I don't know. Like we're not. I don't know. It's like all we can do is pray, for real. Let me say this though too. I am even more grateful and more hopeful with every human being that, you know, was born Caucasian that are leaving the most beautiful.
So here's where I'm just like, okay, well, I can identify with this. I'm Asian and I'm a male, so yeah. Can I identify as just like a Caucasian just to like, I guess, wedge my way into this human moment.
Beautiful messages or DM me. I'm hopeful. I'm extremely hopeful, and thank you for all of everyone that's DMing me and that's open to having conversation, and we're learning from each other. Thank you. I want to keep doing that.
And this is where I was trying to like really make my channel Chit Chalk Chat like solving this like open conversation in a digital world, you know, like, because it can be done in a very authentic, direct way if we use it right. You know, my father told me social media was like the invention of the knife, you know, like the first human being who invented the knife and introduced it to their tribe members, like say, yep, here you go, use this to like, you know, cut, you know, stuff, use it as a tool. Or did the first person say, I have this, I rule, you know, or did they say, everybody get one of these, we're going after them? You know, like, it's just, what was the intention? And that's how I kind of learned, like, that was what all these different platforms were. Facebook is like a tool. Snapchat is like, like a way that was invented to use it as a way to hurt people, right? A deception, you know, like you could do something and it won't be saved. And you know, like, it's just like this false sense of security that ended up blowing up in a lot of people's faces, you know, right? So it's just like, let's learn from these past decades, right? Like, learn that like I said, our biggest enemy within is within ourselves. And this is where I'm grateful to see just like all the public democratic figures and stations be like, hey, look, we concede. This is what the American people want. Then, you know, we'll accept it. And to me, that was the hope, that they are also embracing and, in a sense, repenting in a way that couldn't be this way without God Almighty not watching over just Trump, but just over all of us, over, and so this is where I would begin addressing the daughter, your 23-year-old daughter, and your husband, her father, who was asked this question, like, Dad, like, what do I do when I get pulled over and the police have full immunity? It's just like, if I was a father who had a 23-year-old daughter who asked me that in lieu of, an election result, like, that would be a big reality check. And I hope that parents who are hearing you with their hearts and, just open minds, like, hear, like, this is a true human fear that everybody can get around. Like, what child doesn't fear, like, getting pulled over by the police, and just, like, especially being a daughter who, could be taken advantage of, but then if it was like a son, I have to think, like, if I was a parent, like, would I give different advice if it was a son asking me this and not a daughter? Like, this is where I'm grateful I'm not a parent yet, because these are the thoughts that I, like, wrestle around, that I'm just like, I don't know. That's the fear, where I'm like, I'm not prepared, and I want to be prepared as much as I can, because my father was just so prepared for every one of these moments that I would come to him, just be like, Dad, I don't know. Like, I'm, like, the only one that, like, looks like me in school, and I didn't know how to say it, but it's just like, I just don't feel like I fit in, and this is, like, just speaking, like, Korean. There was a huge language barrier for me, aside from the racial contrast amongst my peers. So it was just like, my father just told me, like, look, Charles, you're an American, and, like, you are no different from any of them. You're an American just like them. So if anybody tells you, like, you're not an American, you tell them you're an American just like them. You were born here. Okay. Like, just the advice that he gave me was just so simple and to the point and directly perfect, that I just was like, thank you. And what about my life? And I ended up just, like, taking ESL classes through elementary school. I had attended, there was AM and PM sessions, so my parents couldn't afford daycare, and they trusted the public system, in the village, like, it takes a village, like, like, I grew up in a very opportunistic environment, where a lot of my peers today have thrived very well, and a lot of them have not. And so many of us are just lying in the middle. Just like anybody I would meet would hopefully be able to say, like, yeah, I can relate to that. Like, I know what you're saying, right? Like,
yeah. I'm sitting here, like, just crying at all of the comments on that video, because it's refreshing to see so many white men and women share their experiences on why they just didn't choose to be so hateful and racist. It, like, leaves you a little bit hopeful. So if you were down and wondering, like, who you can trust, go look at that video and just read the comments. Thank you. I left my house today and I didn't even know how to move around. Like, it felt so weird. Like, it felt like I had a target on me. So weird. I didn't know who to smile at. I didn't know who to be kind to. I am sitting here like just crying. That is the realest statement. I went out today. I went out to.
And that's where it's so simple. Just be kind to everybody, like it was explained to me best as just like looking in a mirror and you see yourself crying and frowning, like the only way you're going to see yourself smiling and looking happy is if you change first. Like you're not going to walk up to the mirror like crying and just be like, be happy. And this is where I like watch those commercials for like the medication for depression, like where they like use the analogy of just like, this is how it feels to be like depressed, like you're putting on this smiley face avatar when like behind it you're just like this, but that's where I'm just like, wow, like I don't know. it was just one of those, if a picture that says 1,000 words, like it was just seeing that where I was just like, I've been depressed, but have I ever felt like I was putting on a different face? And I was during my comedy years, and like I said, getting out of that life, it was so fearful for me because it was about 23 when I was your child's age, and I was just like, this is what I want to do, but I have so many fears, like, and none of them were, what do I do if I get pulled over and the police have full immunity? Like, I just immediately knew what to do in that situation was just listen and do everything that they tell you. Like that's what you have to train yourself. And this is where I noticed like the contrast when I would hang out with like my black skinned peers as opposed to just like any other peer. Just it was for some reason like my black friends who were the ones where like they just automatically like change into a whole different energy, let alone like image. Like to give you an example, like we were driving in my parents' like Mercedes, and just like my friend was in shotgun, and he was just like, man, I've like never thought like I'd be riding in a car like this. And I was like, yeah, just stop bouncing around so much, just like just chill, like be cool, like I get it, like I'm excited to be able to be driving this, so like that's not damage, like, but like we came to a stoplight and like next to us like a police officer like ended up just stopping, and just I like he pulled up on my side and I like look up and I like nodded, and then I just kind of like in my peripheral I don't like see like I kind of look over and he's just like, no exaggeration, just and I'm like looking at him like, yo, everything all right? And he's just like, yep, just being cool, and I'm just like, dude, like kind of you're kind of making me like freak out. You got anything on you? He was like, I mean, I got like a gun on me. And this is where I was just like, whoa, like, are you, like, so this is where I had to like stop, and I'm just like, dude, like just chill out, like, and everything just happened to just go by copacetically, like, and he chalked it up to just like, I can't believe that like that happened, dude. Like that's never happened to me. Like it must be because you're Asian. It was always because I'm Asian, like that was like the miracle that was the explanation for all like my black peers on why this is happening to me, but not like when I'm not like I was just like, I don't know, is it because I am Asian? Like they were like, like I never had to get into a fight, and I learned that it was because I was Asian. Everybody looked at me and assumed that I knew martial arts to a point where I do it very well due to like just how I presented myself. It's like you just walk like very gracefully and just like you just seem like somebody who knows martial arts. And I was like, I mean, I'm not going to argue with that, bro. Like, if that's what you think about me, I'm not going to lie. I don't know any of that, but for my own safety, I'm just going to go with that lie, you know? And that was something I had to deal with as a comedian, just like exposing that, just like, I don't know martial arts. So like, this is just kind of like where I was just like, oh, wow. I'm like mining new fears in myself where I was just like, this is kind of how I survived. Now I'm exposing the secret. What am I going to do? You know, like, I hope you can understand the connection that I'm making between us here using this part of the story, because I know this is just very off the wall. And I hope that if you guys are following me to this point, you know, thank you
to the gym to go walk. And I just couldn't smile at anybody. I didn't know who to trust.
And this is the buzzword, trust. In God we trust. You know, like, trust. You've already told us in the beginning that people with trauma, childhood traumas and stuff like that, may not be able to trust anybody. Parents, siblings, friends, coaches, you know, just like, and I hear that and I'm just like, I couldn't even imagine being in those shoes where I don't feel like I can trust anybody. I mean, like, I feel like I can't trust anybody in a sense where it's just like, look, I have my dreams, I have my passions, and I don't trust people to help me reach those goals. You know, like, I've gotten to that point. It's like, I'm set to do it myself, and hopefully, yeah, if somebody's able to help me and get me over whatever hump I'm at, of course I'm going to accept it. But like, I'm not going to go out and like, you know, trick myself out as just like, this is what I have to offer. Just like what I'm seeing being exposed in this industry that, just like you, I was sitting there just like, I admire these people, yet like, I don't. But like, you know, it was like this weird battle, and just similar to just like, you know, like, Trump is this, Biden is this, and I said my piece, and Biden ended up dropping out, and I was just like, wow, did I do that? You know? And then Harris was the next runner-up, and I just saw her, and I was really focusing on her, and just like, when I hear this sense of like a shattered hope amongst like our female and women neighbors, whatever these words mean to you, but I'm just using those two terms to be as inclusive as I can, you know, like, because I'm just assuming that you're the target audience that's most hurt by this result. And I just pray that this message finds you well and presents a doorway to like lead to inner peace, because that's all I want to help you.
And I was saying, like, I was like, this is so weird. Like, I don't even know who to trust. Like, I don't even know to be kind and smile at people.
So trust in God, and God is love. And anybody who knows love knows God. Anybody who abides in love abides in God. You know, so this is the reset. We have a chance to redeem ourselves from the way that we acted during this free-for-all. Now it's time to say, all right, it's finals. You know, like, we got to buckle down and show the world that we're better than we were then. That we've grown, we've learned, rather than just trying to react and go back to the America where we feel like Black Lives Matter or all lives matter. I personally have said, if it's in a case where it's police brutality against citizens that they protect being the issue on the plate, I would have hashtagged citizens lives matter. But hey, nobody listened to me. But I'm gonna do my best to make those points vocal, because I feel like if I just had said that sooner, maybe things would have changed, because things that I started to say, this is more
because you feel like a walking target of just that everybody hates you. Like
yeah, with the whole China fear and stuff like that, I do feel like, hey, I really have to pay attention to the rhetoric people are using about China and foreigners. Because when I saw a TikTok video of a black neighbor out in New York, I think, in a McDonald's or something, yelling at an Indian neighbor, just like, I'm sick of you foreigners coming into this country. And I was just like, oh my God, that was just being thrown into my father's shoes, just hearing that from this side of Americans. He always told me the white Americans are going to look down on you, but you tell them you're no different from them. But then I don't have this this racial animosity against the African American tribe members, because I grew up in a neighborhood where my neighbors were high schooler Iman and Cinnamon. They were just from a black family. They were my babysitters, and they were great to me. And so all my memories and experiences with my black fellow human beings has always just been more positive than just any negative situations, like the situation where I'm driving and I find out this kid has a gun and he's bouncing around, I just think of that and I'm just dude, yeah, no, definitely don't bounce around. And if you're gonna be with me, my rule is don't carry guns. I'm not about that, and well, we can touch on that next time. But just change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change. And if you change the things you look at, the way you look at things will change. So do one of these, and I'll just kind of be watching, praying for you, and just, I'm here with you, and through the grace of God and the love and humanity, I have full faith and trust that we will succeed, and we won't squander this, like I said, this second opportunity, but really just a reset. We went back in time, and now we can treat this as just okay, well, let's imagine this is Super Bowl rematches where it's just the Patriots versus everybody else, or the Chiefs versus everybody. It's just they've been said, oh, they won that time because of this. It's just then they came back, and it's just it's just time after time they've proven. So Donald Trump says he's going to do this. He's going to end all these wars. That's the first thing I'm praying for. And then if he can do that, and then he can go after dismantling, it's just, we have to watch this man's priorities. And I hope that just everybody on the Trump train who's just excited, I'm watching you guys, just, don't be throwing it in our face or anything like that, because that's only going to spark it more. And I'm going to do my best to just check people, especially when I see, my fellow colleagues who.
Oh, it's me. I'm probably losing followers for this too. And that's okay. I would hope that you wouldn't, but I mean, it's all right. If you don't like going board, that's fine. It's 100%. That's fine. I know a lot of us are sad, scared, and angry right now, and rightfully so. And that's okay. I would hope it's weird 4 years for us. I mean, it's all right. But if you don't like bottle that down, that's fine. It's let it brew, let it fester. And come Thanksgiving, dude, and you sit across the table, you're slack-jawed yokel of a family that voted again, no matter what happened, right? No matter who we elect, show all that fury. I just hope it's a side of fucking stuffing down their throat. Never be invited back. So good luck. Stay safe. Love violently. Good luck. Stay safe. Love violently.
Love violently. That's not the answer. So I just pray that, again, this message and my words find you well and resonate as much as yours did with me. And I pray that we just help neighbors like my good friend Garrett Waller over here just kind of see the error in just like their free use of the First Amendment. Just like, just stop being so hypocritical. Man up. You're a father. Like just act like a man. Stop acting like the man child that everybody acted like. So that's my mission for this next year of my first term as POTUS. And that's POTUS standing for Person Out to Unite Society, Souls, States, whatever you want to use that acronym for. But thanks for watching this long, and I will see you on the next episode. Remain blessed.